The announcement of Notcry's version release as Luna 1 instead of 6.0 probably threw off a lot of Genshin players. Logically so, because we strictly went from 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and then 5.0, and then it's suddenly the Luna patches. Why was this necessary? Let's talk about it, because this might spell some big changes for how future Genshin versions are gonna be done. For starters, I'm fairly sure that it has something to do with whatever it is that the devs mean when they say that they want Genshin to last 10 or 20 years, or maybe even longer than that. We generally knew that during release, Genshin had a 10-year roadmap that they wanted to follow, and that the Travail teaser was going to pretty much be the starting point of all their stories. But what if we were to think about it this way instead? The Luna patches, or other patches that will bear the same type of version naming scheme as Luna. Why do I feel like I'm talking about failed crypto here? Anyways, those types of patches are meant to break away from the conventional number naming scheme in order to maintain Genshin's Travail storyline progression. Cause one of the funniest, biggest icks that I've seen that some people had been vocal with Notcry is that it ruins what the devs had teased us through that Travail teaser. 1.0 covered Mondstadt and Liyue, 2.0 was Inazuma, 3.0 was Sumeru, 4.0 Fontaine, and 5.0 Natlan. By default, obviously, Chapter 6, 6.0 was supposed to be Snezhnaya, but with Notcry coming in, some folks were about to flip at the notion that the devs are breaking off from that Travail pattern. Personally, I don't really see the problem. Plans change, what ends up showing up compared to what are seen in teasers made 5 years ago can most definitely change, but with Notcry being Luna, this implies that it might have been a way for the devs to put these sort of extension regions into the game's roadmap without it affecting the Travail path itself. This way, the number naming scheme will still line up, so we'll have 6.0 Chapter 6 for Snezhnaya and 7.0 for, presumably, Khaenri'ah. Now, whatever it is that they are going to want to put between 6.0 and 7.0 can end up utilizing this new Luna-like naming scheme that they just established. Because realistically, it just kinda never really made sense to me as of now. They had a 10-year roadmap with the general consensus being that for every time a year passes, they will enter the next number cycle alongside it being a new region, yet there are only 7 Archon regions for us to go through, and then plus the godless nation of Khaenri'ah. That's a maximum of 8 if we were to only follow Travail. Now with the addition of Notcry, that makes it 9, and if we want to speculate even further, then the 10th should probably be Celestia or somewhere that is related to finally solving the whole Celestia, Abyss, Gods, and Human debacle. So that probably then made the initial 10-year roadmap complete. But then they said that they want to try and make this game last for 20 years, which kind of blows the speculations out of the water a little bit, because that's a hell of a lot more years than we thought, and we're not even sure if they will end up having enough content to put into that extra 10 years. Whether or not you think that they actually still want to make that much more content for this game, or they just want to prolong the shelf life of one of their biggest cash cows, and quite frankly, one of Gacha's biggest cash cows, that's up to you. I can see both reasons being right, it just depends on the lens that you're viewing it from. But this is also where the devs either accidentally saved themselves or had big brain planned this entire thing to begin with, ever since the conception of the Travail storyline. Because as some of you are probably racing to point out in the comments right about now, Khaenri'ah's chapter within the Travail trailer is still marked as garbled, or just, question marks, while everything else that comes before it, even Snezhnaya, already has a proper number. This honestly can really only mean one thing. Khaenri'ah is of course the endgame, and the devs are not sure when that endgame is supposed to come. Although it is quite frustratingly enticing, since even though it seems like they don't even know when we're gonna see Khaenri'ah, the presumed gate to said nation has already been present in the map since the Sumeru times. So we're just gonna have to stare at it, constantly wondering what really lies behind that majestic, gigantic, do not screw with that type of door that they have. Admittedly, it would be even more annoying if we were to have some sort of world quest or interlude quest that has us broaching upon the topic of the door, or even visiting it, only for it to still not be the time for us to open it. Because mind you, the world quest that did lead us to the path leading to the door did not encompass a part of its story where we actually do go to the door and have some sort of interaction related to it. However, considering the plans with Luna, that kind of storyline may well end up happening, because as long as they find a way to drive the narrative towards the content that they want to make, then honestly, the feasibility of the devs doing just about anything with what sort of patch lines that they want to put next is much more possible with the new structure and branch of version types. Like, let's use one of the biggest clues when it comes to unfinished regional storylines and take Mondstadt's Archon Quest as an example. Mondstadt enjoyers have always parroted the fact that the first Mondstadt arc was never simply referred to as its own chapter, and is rather referred to as the prologue. And I've always been one to assume that we are not at all finished with Mondstadt's overall exposition. I made 2 videos covering why that might be the case, but most of all, there are just so many Mondstadt loose ends that have yet to be properly addressed, even when Durin was already serviced by paralogism. Though a lot of my question mainly revolves around Dorman Port. When the hell is this actually becoming a thing, man? But essentially, what the devs have basically allowed themselves to do now is that if they decided that they want to make that Mondstadt dedicated patch line, say like instead of going straight from what would be 6.0 Snezhnaya to 7.0 whatever the arc is supposed to be, they use that gap to then go back to Mondstadt and re-explore everything by using a whole patch line that they can then refer to as, Ventus, I guess? Because Luna is Latin for moon, while Ventus is Latin for wind, so that just makes sense on its own. And then they proceed to use that version to just flesh the crap out of Mondstadt. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more difficult to fill fresh content because they're gonna have to do a whole Mondstadt overhaul to make it worth spending a whole patch line for it, but you should already kinda get the point of what I think the devs are trying to do here. And in all fairness to them, if they do want to make insane patches out of everything that Genshin has, then yeah, sure, by using the entirety of their lore, then I can see the feasibility of extending this donkey game to a shelf life of 20 years. Mayor Javari is getting more attention in Song of the Welkin Moon versions, Mondstadt expansions, maybe if they want to make the Dandelion Sea an actual thing that they can put that in, finding a way to make the Golden Apple Archipelago to be permanent, or the fact that the nameless islands seem to have a gate that may lead to potential underwater and underground sections that litter everywhere in Mondstadt, plus Liyue as well, since all those regions have yet to have a direct extensive underground section. Celestia might have their own stupid region to account for. We know that there might be countless old civilizations that had been turned upside down like the ones we saw under the chasm, which predates even Kandria, that can be explored. The whole of the Dark Sea in itself, the place where older gods run to avoid the rule of the Seven and was once home to the proud Seelie civilization, can be a whole ass region on its own if they really want to make us expand beyond Tevat. Maybe even go to the innermost depth of the Abyss realms. And expanding beyond Tevat is also a concept that many players are already speculating about. Just like how Honkai Impact 3rd technically finished their original story, which is part 1, and then made a part 2, some people are already convincing themselves that Genshin is gonna go beyond Tevat or even go to a different planet, especially now that spaceships are confirmed to be a thing in the game via the Traveler's origin story, and that there are ruins potentially situated in the sky, just like the question mark ruins that we saw in the Book of Esoteric Revelations world quest, or maybe more areas like Tenatia. Maybe those kind of areas can be further explored upon one day. Maybe have the Travelers attempt to find their actual homeworld that was supposedly decimated already, being like a kind of Cybertron seeking journey? I don't know. Hell, maybe at some point the Astral Express comes in and just offers a free ride for the Travelers to go back home and see it for themselves. Who knows? The possibilities now are just diabolical. The only question that us, the players, will always have to ask is that, will quality survive? The devs can aim as high as they want, sure. I for one would love to see the game last as long as they want it to last and expand as ginormously as they may now have envisioned, but can they really keep up with their own ambition? And unfortunately, Notcry is just such a big turning point for them in terms of development that if they screw up what they set out to do with this sort of interlude region, then quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people are gonna stick around to find out what they are gonna get even for the next 1-2 years, let alone 5 or 10. Notcry needs to punch a giant hole in the story that would make people question more, anticipate more, and ask for more things that goes beyond just the scope of the Archon quest itself. Cause mind you, they are already taking a huge risk by delaying one of the most highly anticipated regions in Genshin storyline, so there will be a need to compensate for the massive edging that they just gave the community. These questions, these important loose ends, not ones that just go to the middle of nowhere, can serve as their way of making narrative reasons to create more of these Luna types of patches. But they are going to have to walk a really fine balance between expanding the Genshin world with these Luna types of patches while also making sure to maintain the release of the Travail storyline. Cause, well, no matter how good your story is, it will only end up being as good as how it ended or how you let it go. The main storyline needs to stop somewhere, lest we end up with a Pokemon or Detective Conan situation where the MC never aged even after decades and thousands of episodes and doesn't even know if it's ever gonna end. Not Cry either has to serve as the answer or at least give us a clear direction of what the devs want to do. Anything less, then it'll just serve to drive more players away from the game, unless those players really feel like they either can't miss Nishnaya or Celestia. That being said, if we were to probably be completely honest, they probably already have a lot of players staying just because of the prospect of these four being playable. Not to mention this dude stuck in stasis. And you know what? That's just how it is sometimes, I guess. That's it for this video. As usual, thank you all for watching and making it this far. Until the next video, the name's Leafy, and I'll see y'all next time. Sayonara.